Welcome to Paradigm Playbook, the podcast on the business of sports. With 50 plus years of experience, Steve Cook shares insights weekly, featuring top playmakers shaping the industry. Get ready to script your next play. Now, here's your host.
Welcome to Paradigm Playbook. I'm your host, Steve Cook. I'm here today with my new friend, Curtis Michelson. Curtis and I met virtually a few weeks ago, and this time for the first time, and I'm so excited and doing research. So there's 10 different ways to introduce Curtis, so I'm going to let him introduce himself. So Curtis,
Fair enough.
you're on.
All right. Thanks, Steve. And because you didn't know, it's Michelson, not Mickelson. Not a
Oh,
biggie.
I'm sorry.
No, it's fine. It's fine. I was born and raised in Miami, Florida, a Florida kid most of my life. I live in Orlando, Florida now. I've worn a few hats over the years. I graduated philosophy degree, so I've got more of a liberal arts background, right? But I did a fair amount of computer science and engineering, so almost a double major, kind of one of those technical and liberal arts kind of degrees. But early on, I moved into the nonprofit world. I was very involved in change movements, activism. I even lived in Nicaragua for a time, was what you might call they were called sandilistas. These would be Birkenstock sandal wearing Americans, starry-eyed, silly, lefty-leaning, like, yay, we're going to save the world. But what has stayed with me is change. I'm an activist at an organizational level. I think all good consultants, business consultants, are something of an activist. If we're not sparking change, if we're not asking disruptive questions, we're not very good at what we do, in my opinion. So the activism has been a through line in my life. Sparking change, pulling people together. It's just not directed at the man anymore, right? It's not like I'm trying to take down the system. But after that, I moved to Orlando because the nonprofit I was working with had me open an office in Orlando. They were called Florida PIRG, Florida Public Interest Research Group. And it was one of those Ralph Nader nonprofit organizations. And we worked at the state level, lobbying for environmental legislation and stuff like that. And I was the door-to-door canvas director. We would literally send college students out every night, knocking on doors. We want to create some good environmental change in Florida. We'd raise money, blah, blah, blah. So I did that for a few years in Florida. So again, the change, early activism kind of, but what was funny was you burn out after doing that for a while. I ended up working for something called Map and Globe Store, which was literally back when we had paper maps, Steve.
Yeah.
Remember, you would actually go to a map store? And this was a really cool map store. I mean, it had the weirdest, oldest maps you've ever seen, and you had globes, and it was a store around the corner from where I was living in downtown Orlando, and it was run by a crazy old man who would ride around in a wheelchair, but he walked perfectly fine. But Bert Green hired me to be his map salesman, and I discovered I love sales. It turned out I was pretty good at it. So I would be door knocking and really calling plumbers and electricians up and down Central Florida, selling the Central Florida Street Atlas. Kind of my next move in life was like, hey, you know what? Activism and sales are kind of not that far apart. We're selling just two different things. I enjoyed putting on the tie. I came into work every day with a tie, and I started to read about sales and really say, hey, there's a craft here. There's a real art to sales and even some science behind it. My work since then has really been, I would say, more technical. I started my own business in downtown Orlando in the 90s because why not? Just up it a level. Let's go ahead and try to sell something of your own that I created. So I created a fax newsletter. Remember when fax was king? You and I would fax each other. So I created a publication called the Do Lunch News, and it went to 500 businesses in downtown Orlando every morning, advertising the lunch specials, and it was paid by advertising. So the restaurants bought ad spots. So that was the first business I hacked together in 1993, 94. And we did that for a few years with my wife at the time. It's a long intro. I apologize. The zigzaggy journey. This is what it was. As I built that business out, and I started to learn a lot about business, I started to take that seriously. We had a team of about 3 or 4 people as it grew. And there was a woman who was a organizational development consultant. I didn't even know what org dev was at the time, but she used DISC. If you're familiar with the DISC personality system, DISC. And so she had all of us take DISC and sit for it. And then she unpacked it. And for me, it was magic. It was like, wow, this is like amazing. A way to get a team of people talking to each other and complementary, developing their skills and realizing, wow, no wonder this is why you annoy me so much, because you're high C and I'm high D, but we can work together, right? So that was just, I'm a kid. I'm in my mid-20s, but I just think that, wow, people are thinking about business much deeper than I ever realized. There's so much here. And I never took an MBA. I could have done that. I just never did. On-the-job training MBA is probably my life. And then from there, I really went into the technical world because during that time with the Do Lunch News, I was building out systems. So code, software, databases. And in late 90s, you know what happened. The birth of the web, the birth of the internet 1.0. And I couldn't resist it. I was like, man, this is exciting. So I became a software developer and I started building websites, database applications, and so forth. And that really was a good 10-year run from about late 90s to 2010, and was really just working with a lot of publishers. I worked with a lot of book publishers. Academic publishers was a niche. So Harvard University Press, Chicago University Press, those kind of publishers. And so just cut my teeth in that whole web stack, Cold Fusion, JavaScript, blah, 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 all that kind of stuff. That's the 2000s for me, right?
It's fascinating to me, your growth. You crossed some paths that I crossed as well. I came up in the sports world thinking I was going to be a gym teacher, got bit by the sales bug also,
Yeah.
realized that you could make money, and I got intrigued by making money and selling. And then as I got deeper into sales, like you, I learned that it was actually a science.
Yeah.
And there was more to it than the prototypical used car salesman in the loud plaid jacket. It was,
Yeah.
I see that the entrepreneurial bug in you, it sounds like it hit early
Yeah.
for you. Have you always been more of an entrepreneur or a solopreneur?
Mostly. I did a few stints in corporates. So from just to round out the rest of the story, from 2010 to about present, past 15 years or so, there's a product owner role. Have you heard that term, product owner?
Sure.
Okay. And for folks who are listening to the podcast, it's essentially I want to say the captain of the ship, but someone that's watching across there's so many things you can do with software. The thing with software is it's very malleable. It's kind of soft, like putty.
Yeah.
Once you're working with software, there's almost too many things you can do with it. And it's kind of dangerous because you could burn through a lot of time and people could burn a lot of resources building the wrong thing. So the product owner was the one that was guiding the path, maintaining what's called a product backlog. So these would be, hey, great idea, but that's going to go back in the backlog and we'll schedule it for Q2 and so forth. So you manage the backlog. So I started to own product ownership, which is really it's the interface between the business and the software team, because they were usually very disconnected historically. These people speak geek over here. We don't understand them. And these people are in a business world, and these twains never met. And the product owner or the product manager, et cetera, was supposed to be that bridge. And there's many names for this role. There's product owner, product manager, even sometimes project manager. These people that kind of betwixt and between try to bridge technical and business, right? That was my aha. And I realized, Steve, that I had always been doing that implicitly, probably because I'd been an entrepreneur, probably because I'd cut my teeth in business and the Do Lunch News. I thought more like a business person, not just a coder. So by the end of my software time, they were sending me to the client in advance on recon missions because I ask good questions and I'm getting the politics and I'm getting the who's in charge and who's really influential here, and bringing like a CIA dossier back to the coding team, before they ever built anything. Yeah.
Your coding team was an outsourced company that was selling to corporate?
Yeah, but they were all our internal people. We weren't using offshore talent at the time, but they were back in Miami, Florida, most of them, somewhere in other parts, but they were our contractors, but they were our team.
So it seems to me that this probably or should have or maybe morphed into doing the same thing with AI.
Of course, it's that on steroids times 10, whatever you want to say. So where I'm at today, really management consulting, business consulting. I know the tech well. I'm not a software developer anymore. I wouldn't claim to be, but guess what? I know a lot of software developers who really don't even know what a software developer is anymore. We're at a time where, you, me, my dad, anyone could talk to Claude Code and build an app. Right. So we're in just a different place now. I'm attending these product management conferences because the current hat I wear is working with that community a lot. I work with a group called Product Tank Orlando, which is a gathering of product people. I work with the global community called Mind the Product. So if you go to mindtheproduct.com, that's a big community I support, and I support the other product tanks around the world. And the essence of the conversation is right now with all of these, if I was to distill what these people are talking about, oh my God, what do we do now? Who are we now? Developers don't know who they are. Designers don't know who they are. Product people, anyone can play anybody else's role now. It's become very fluid. The designers are able to write code. The coders can do designs, and product people can do whatever they want. So we're in a weird time right now. Yeah.
So that brings up a question to me. So when you divide up your time, your day, your weeks, how much of your time, so I know you spend, obviously from what I've been able to dig up, you do a lot of writing. There's a lot of information out there. How much of your time do you spend writing, speaking, consulting, learning, developing, innovating? How do you figure that all out?
They sound like separate things, but I think they're all threaded together. It's all about innovation for me. It's all about disruptive thinking, all about being ready for change. It's always been about that. The world's always been changing. It's just changing 10 times as fast now. So if you read what I write, I'm writing stories for Innovation Leader magazine. I'm interviewing CEOs and CTOs. I'm working right now on a story for a company called Sweetwater. Are you a musician, Steve?
No, I'm not, but I've heard of Sweetwater.
If you're a musician, you've probably bought gear from sweetwater.com,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And it's a great story. And I stumble into these stories and I just love it because I get to interview the leadership and say, what is it you guys are doing differently? Because I don't know if you can see the drum set back there. I needed some new gear. So I happened to order from Sweetwater. And my God, the customer service experience was another level. You call it third level. This was 10th level customer service.
Wow.
And it's unbelievable how good these people are. And I knew there had to be an innovation story there. I could smell it. I was like, this is something different because what you order, even me ordering a silly couple parts, I probably spent $250 on the order. Okay, this is not a $10,000 order.
Yeah.
I get a call from a guy. I thought it was spam. He says, hi, I'm Justin. I am your sales engineer, and I will be working with you for whatever you need in the future. I was like, are you kidding me? Is this a joke? And he says, no, I'm really going to be your sales engineer. There's hundreds of us that work at Sweetwater, and I was paired with you specifically. I was like, oh, okay, this is a story I've got to write for Innovation Leader magazine. This is good, right? So,
yeah, it reminds me of, you're going to have to help me, the shoe company that
Zappos, right? That's a good example.
kind of changed the customer service.
Yeah.
And I think he wrote a book called Selling Happiness.
Yeah.
It was the same thing. It's like taking that customer service to a level. You know what, Curtis? So for everybody out there, Curtis has been invited to speak at the upcoming Signature Business event that we're doing in December in Orlando. As we talk, I keep coming up with another topic for you, Curtis. So it's like,
I'll let you finish out the Sweetwater because it's even a sweeter story. And maybe by the time we do the December event, I'll do the Sweetwater story justice. But so I get on the phone with Mike Clem, the CEO, and he is a genuinely just good, humble guy. People think of the CEO as someone way up top and peering over. He's a genuinely just good dude. He's also a musician. And I learned real quick, everybody that works at Sweetwater, most of them are musicians.
Okay.
It would be like at Zappos, everybody is a shoemaker or everybody is for whatever reason, they're mad and passionate about shoes. This is one of the secrets to their success. And I learned they have a university. It's actually a 14-month program. So Justin, who is my sales engineer, didn't just show up on day one and just start doing that. He was trained through a very formal system. He learned about drums. He learned about recording equipment. He learned all the terminology for all the different gear types. I don't think they're going to show me the curriculum, but I would love to see how they actually run the university. And this is all about maintaining a really authentic culture, only recruiting and hiring people who really love music, right? And so you see that, okay, now they have 400 or 500 sales engineers, and that's real money. That's wow. That's a 2 billion business a year. Mike Clem said, yeah, we've got a couple million customers and we've got 2 billion in income. It's like, this is legit business and it's working for them. And it's just such an inspiring. So this is what I look for. I'm looking for inspiring stories, whether it's with Product Tank Orlando, with Mind the Product, with the writing I do for innovation, for my own personal writing. We need bright spots. And you do this too. I watched your interview with Miran Oka and I'm like, bravo, Miran, super inspiring, right?
yeah, she's awesome.
She's amazing. I love what she's doing.
It's why I do a podcast to begin with, because it gives me a legitimate excuse to have a 30-minute conversation with strangers.
Exactly, right?
I was telling somebody recently, in an era where parents are teaching their kids stranger danger and kids can't look you in the eye and all these issues that we're having, by the way, I think can be solved through sports. How do we learn anything? It's by interacting with strangers. And your Sweetwater, that whole story and your customer service, it also reminds me of, I'm a huge book. I drop book names all the time.
Okay.
That's my hobby is reading, but Unreasonable Hospitality is a great book about how they developed into the Michelin rated #1 restaurant in the world. It's fascinating that most companies that grow to high levels it's not based on the product or the service.
Yeah.
It's the degree of customer service that takes you there. And I don't know if we put enough energy and
Correct.
so I'm intrigued by the curriculum around the training of the people as we were. That's fascinating.
When people interviewed with Tony Hsieh back then, back in the day when he was even rolling out something called holacracy.
Yeah.
That's a part of the story, right? A whole decentralized way of organizing the company, a whole bunch of things he was doing. It was just authenticity would be one of the words that comes through. That from the top to the bottom, side to side, people are there, they're lit up, they're on purpose. And I felt that from Mike Klim, and I felt the same thing when I talked to Justin, my sales engineer, and I'll be interviewing the CTO, the Chief Technology Officer, this Friday to round out the story. And we'll go deeper into what are they doing with AI. And you can imagine they're very creative. They were ahead of the curve on AI. They've been running hackathons for 2 years. There's a team, I'm not really giving away the whole article here, but you got it first from me. They have a crack team that goes all through horizontally through the organization. So they're weaving together HR, legal, every function needs to be working with AI. And they're showing them how to play with it. And they've got great in-house data, which they've already massaged and cleaned and put into back-end systems that the AI loves to chew on. This is a company, I talked to others, they're an outlier. They're way, way ahead of where most companies are right now.
Wow.
It's like, yeah.
So you mentioned the word hackathon, which I spent a lot of years in the corporate environment. I was VP of a company that indirectly was downline from Warren Buffett.
Yeah,
so
wow.
I was part of that whole Berkshire Hathaway structure, way down the line, but I was part of that. And that's where I first came across hackathon. What's your understanding of a hackathon, and where was it? Do you have any idea where it was first used?
Yeah, it's really a software world thing. And it was around the 2000s. The time I was a coder, we were doing hackathons. Okay. But it was very much a nerd event because you had to know how to code to be in a hackathon.
Yeah.
The reason they're experiencing a rebirth is that now that we have tools that kind of convert our natural language intention, like, a little financial dashboard that pulls in this type of analytics, and you can say that. And this amazing technology begins building the code for you, takes on a new meaning. In other words, everybody in the company can be a hacker, right? And it turns out there's an art and a science to how you speak to it, that the way we prompt, and that's really Jedi on the fly. We do think we've got a little better handle than most on how to constructively engage these tools so you get the maximum benefit and not a bunch of spaghetti code or something that's just unusable. But I mean, that's what a hackathon is today. It's a way for a group of people in a period of an hour, 2 hours, could be any type of time block, go, hey, here's an objective. And usually these are internal. This is all internally directed. So that's what they're doing at Sweetwater. And I've seen another company I work with, Pendo, which is a big software analytics company. They say, hey, here's a big problem we want to solve. Okay, you guys form teams really quickly. So 3-person teams. 3 is the magic number, by the way. Why do you think 3 is the magic number for a team these days?
You can't have a tie.
That's part of it. It's a good way to break ties. But it's also one person has the laptop in the center. The other 2 people have their own kind of observational roles, but they all are reading screen and talking together. Yeah. You don't need big teams anymore. We used to say the ideal software team was a 2-pizza team, which means you could feed a software team 2 pizzas over lunch, which was about 7 to 10 people, right? And you needed all these specialist skills, and they all had to be on the team. And now all those special skills are embedded in the AI. So what you need is a small team. You need 2-3 people that are really fast working together, iterating with the AI. So small teams now win. That's a big change.
I'm deep in the entrepreneurial sports world. So I think about everything in a hackathon in that world would dig into the process. And most sports organizations do not have a problem understanding the sport. It's understanding the process and the delivery and the expansion and all of those things, which maybe they're due for a hackathon. I don't know.
You can ask Frank. Frank experienced this event we did back in December of 25, where he was one of the 3rd levelers there, but we worked with another big software company you're probably familiar with that serves the market of gym schools, dance schools, swim schools, and so forth. And they invited their own customers to the table. So in the room, we had gym owners, we had swim school owners, we had dance school owners, and Jedi on the Fly provided a kind of just-in-time hackathon type of event. But what I had them doing was what you're saying. I didn't have them building software. I had them hacking their business model. And so what we stood up was a game called the Value Network game. So what they quickly did, they formed these 3-person teams for the reason I told you. And then each team got to play either the role of gym, swim, dance. They chose one of those markets. And when they launched the app, it pretty much very quickly visualized what would a typical gym school ecosystem look like. You got the gym school in the center of the map, and then you have these obvious sort sort of partners, vendors that you work with. But it's a very basic map. We'll call it just a value map. It's just simply who do you partner with? Who do you exchange dollars and cents with if you run a gym school, right? But then the levels of the game, each level of the game is getting them to think who's not on the map that should be on the map. There's a retailer next door that's a record store. Why have we never thought about like a bundled product where it would be music and gym together and we could sell a new type of product, right? And so getting them to hack the business model over and over, come up with new value props, that's the point of the game, right? We have to hack our own business. That's what a hackathon for me at its best for business.
Yeah, one of the talks I give is on partnerships, and that's everything from patron to sponsorship and everything in between.
Correct.
And I own a little sports business in Pennsylvania, and like I proudly talk about my 27 partners, and some of them is the music store next door, the coffee shop, and I tease that I partnered with 2 coffee shops just in case they didn't have the right blend.
But you, my friend, are an outlier because I think most, and I'm not singling out gym school owners or school, I mean, I'm saying businesses across the board tend to work with who they work with, and they don't give themselves a chance to stretch out and find new partners. They just don't.
The talk I'm giving this week it's called The Crisis in Youth Sports, but one of the things that we force through sports is specialization. Statistically, it's proven that it doesn't work. Early specialization. So the people that reach highest levels and I've read a lot of books on this, is when you get to 80%, move over and learn something else. When you got into sales and you moved into coding, the collective height that you will reach is much higher by cross-training. Well, the same is true in sports. Tom Brady played 4 sports through high school. And he became the best there ever was. It's really interesting, which that's another topic you could talk about.
We'll add that to our product podcast backlog, so to speak.
So I told Curtis when he joined on here that this is going to be at least a 3-part series. So we'll bring Curtis back, but we'll keep talking.
Can I riff on the sports thing for a second?
Yeah, because please do.
Something I stumbled upon, and I shared at that December summit, and Frank will remember. We told the banana ball story.
Oh, yeah.
And that's such a great story because we were talking about value propositions and about really courageously exploring something new. And it really comes down, here's a book. I'm going to share a book with you. You ready? It's called Sacred Cows Make Gourmet Burgers. Okay.
Seth Godin?
No, it's someone you'd never heard of. I'd never heard of. It was actually written for churches in the world of, what are they called? Non-denominational kind of Christian groups. This guy was a pastor at a large church in California.
Give me the name again.
Sacred Cows Make Gourmet Burgers. The book has traveled outside of churches for good reason because it's really about, hey, the biggest thing holding us back in innovation is these assumptions that we've always done it this way.
Yeah.
It's just, we've never done it that way before. We've never thought of breaking the rules of baseball.
Yeah.
And Jesse, what's his last name? Jesse.
I don't know. I just know his yellow suit.
Yeah, his yellow banana suit. He's like, all right, hold my beer. How many rules can I break? Is really was his objective.
Yeah.
It was not for the purpose solely of breaking baseball. He was really focused on a customer that was underserved in baseball.
Absolutely. Yeah.
It's like young people who have TikTok brain, people that are on screens, people who have short attention spans. He's feeding them something that is highly engaging, very energetic. There's a different play every second. Someone's doing a backflip and all this kind of stuff. He designed for a customer, a set of customers that Major League Baseball had just written off or assumed didn't exist, right?
And it's interesting to me because in the gymnastic community, which Frank and I are heavily involved in that, but we tend to think we're training kids to be gymnasts. We're not training them to be people. And so training them to be banana ballers is, you can do that in a gym school. So I think there's a ton of that. I was introduced to that through the book Blue Ocean Strategy.
Oh, of course. Yeah. Kim Malburn.
Great book. And they go in there and the origin of Cirque du Soleil as well.
Oh, I love that story. Absolutely.
It's a great story. And your December event sounds like it's awesome. And there's a lot of companies, big and small, that could benefit. Now, is that something that you do as a facilitator?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay. And
yeah,
that
we
is
facilitate it. Yeah.
So explain to me Jedi on the Fly.
Okay. So weird name, but it's me and a partner in France. His name is Hamid Enachah. He's based in Poitiers, France. If you don't know Poitiers, it's sort of halfway between Paris and Bordeaux, if you were to kind of look at it on the map. I had met Hamid a couple of years ago, and he was the smartest guy I'd seen doing stuff with AI that was just different. He was already making gourmet burgers, so to speak. He was breaking rules and is my kind of guy. And it came at a moment when I was closing my last business. So Jedi on the Fly is an outgrowth of the last failure. So yes, serial entrepreneur. So my last business was called Info DJ, and it lasted from 2020 to about mid 2023. And the back was broken of Info DJ by ChatGPT, hands down. It broke us. And what we were doing, just to give you a little of the backdrop, Info DJ was just an insight I had when I was live facilitating with a client back in early, like pre-COVID, but say 2019. And just as a fluke, I invited a friend of mine who was a librarian, brilliant librarian, kind of like information science nerd kind of guy. His name is Gary Price. And he said, Curtis, I always wonder, what are you doing with these things called design thinking workshops and these sprints? What is this? Like, Gary, come on, just be a fly on the wall. So it was like a 2-day retreat with leadership teams, board of directors, et cetera, and getting them to hack their future and all that kind of stuff. Really, like, what is the future of academic publishing, that kind of thing. And so he starts listening and he's leaning in, and soon enough, Gary becomes an active participant, which I never expected. And because the guy's a librarian and because he can pull stuff and stats and white papers faster than anybody there, he becomes seeding through because I've already put him into working teams. There's table 1, 2, 3, and 4. He's going around and really supporting my teams. Oh, this is pretty cool. And I discovered it was a superpower to have this kind of little instigator from the outside popping in just the right amount of information, like a DJ spinning the news you can use. So we called it Info DJ. Again, two crazy guys spinning up a business. And it was going great. We had clients, corporate clients on retainers, like good money. And when ChatGPT hit, it looked silly because why do we need to hire you guys when we can clearly see this technology is going to be the Info DJ on demand that we need? So the whole value prop evaporated. It just completely vanished and I'm left without a business. So Jedi on the Fly is built on the ash pile of that. And what I realized was, okay, so intelligence is going to be like water. It's going to be utility. Information is a utility. If you're willing to spend $20 a month or whatever a month, you're going to have all the answers you need. Every answer on demand. Google times 10 or 100. What's missing? The gap is going to be how well we ask questions, how well engaging we are, how well we engage each other, and like real business conversations that are driven on that data, but don't get locked and we don't all stare at screens. So the birth of Jedi on the Fly was we just took the remaining asset that I had left over, which was an amazing corpus of trade publications, science publications, so authoritative material. So when you read that brief that I gave Frank the other day, which was really a brief on the future of kids' development, okay, that was auto-published out of Jedi on the Fly's backend. I didn't handwrite any of that. Okay. That was created by
created that awfully quickly. I was following the email chain and Frank said, oh, you don't have to do that. And you say, oh, too late, it's done.
Yeah, we call these collision briefs or autopoetic intelligence reports. The reason I trust them, and there's zero hallucination, and I can say it with authority, is because what we're doing with all of this incoming, I find very trustworthy, authoritative data from many different sources and fields. Each article is getting ingested, it's getting quality controlled, it's getting tagged, we're extracting summaries. So all that is local to us now, all that information. And it's not all the world's information. You don't need to have all that. What you need is enough. We call it signal. These are signals that we're storing. And they're really pointers to what's changing in the environment. We track 4 kinds of signals. One are applications, which are new emerging value props, new emerging applications, business ideas. We're tracking technologies, really discrete technologies, like not just generative artificial intelligence, but then inside that, we're tracking world models, various types of LLMs. There's new models. So we're tracking granular technology. We're tracking catalysts, which are economic levers that are moving in the world. And we're tracking trends, consumer trends, business trends. At a very granular level, all the signals in our system are getting stored and aggregated. And that's what our AI is chewing on. So it's really like I took the residue of InfoDJ, took what I could from it, and now we're really using the AI tools properly. And we're building a kind of a corpus. So then we can auto-publish what you saw and other types of very thought-provoking, hopefully strategically thought-provoking materials so that leadership teams go, I hadn't thought about that angle before. That's what we really want. That's what Jedi on the Fly is about.
So I assume that you're working primarily with corporate clients.
Yeah.
Is there a model that makes it usable or affordable in an entrepreneurial small business or small business group setting?
Yeah, small, medium-sized business. Sure. Our engagements, like if you wanted to have us come and run the value network game or one of our innovation games, it's very reasonable. We're talking 4 digits, not low 4 digits. Okay. It's a great experience. So if you want to get get your people involved. It could be, oh, Mirren, what does she have? 20, 30 people in her company. She wanted to gather them all around and get this kind of, and she would be the type of person to do it, by the way, because this is the way Mirren thinks as a B Corp owner. She says, you know what? I'm not the smartest person in this room. My employees are, because they're closest to the customer and they're young people and they're bright and their minds are more plastic. I want all of them involved in this conversation. And so we would run one of like the Jedi events so that they could kind of do their own hackathon internally.
I don't know if Mirren and I talked about it in her interview. One of the hooks to keeping employees is being the growth catalyst in their life.
Right.
Not just your business, but if you're constantly growing your employees, then they're not going to leave. And I think studies show that people want that growth more than they want increased income.
It's absolutely true. And Mirren knew it, and she's doing it for all kinds of reasons. She knows it's just good business, it's good for the world, but she knows that, you know what, humans are intrinsically motivated, so that you don't need to dangle carrots and sticks and say, hey, if you outsell this next employee, I'm going to reward you X much more. It's not about extrinsic rewards. It's about intrinsic rewards that people respond to. You know the book, I'm sure, Dan Pink's book. I probably have it on the shelf, but it's the one about tapping intrinsic motivation. It's Drive, the book Drive.
Yeah.
My gosh, mastery, autonomy, and purpose. If you let people become masters of their own domain, if you give them autonomy, the ability to try things and fail, whatever they're passionate about, explore their passion and their purpose, my God, those people will never leave you. They will love working with you.
Curtis, I'm going to pull the plug on this just because I try to keep these to 30 minutes. I knew this was going to go too long. So with your permission, I will invite you back.
We'll do it again.
And we'll do this again. We'll dig into some other things.
Okay. All right.
If somebody wants to communicate with you, is there a specific email or website that they should go to?
Yeah. My personal site is curtismichelson.com. So CURTIS, obvious, but MICHELSON, no A in there, which is why people say Michelson. Easy mistake. No problem. So curtismichelson.com is my personal story. That's me as a consultant, but it'll link you right over to Jedi on the Fly soon enough. And that's JediOnTheFly.com. So either place is a good place to reach me.
And so there's information there. And if you go to the website, and I've been tracking, just kind of checking up on you, and I clicked on your bio background and learned some information about you as a child. And it's all good. Thank you so much for doing this. We will bring you back on. We'll talk more. And anybody that wants to meet Curtis live and in person, hopefully the first weekend in December in Orlando will be the place to go.
Thank you, Steve. It's a pleasure.
Thank you. I will talk to you again soon.
Thanks for tuning in to Paradigm Playbook. Explore more at ParadigmPlaybook.com. Want to be a playmaker? Contact StephenJCook.com. Share this episode to spread the word about sports industry opportunities. See you next week.